I caught my girlfriend kissing a guy from Tesla at a bar. She acted as if she didn't know me and even called me out, but she wasn't ready for what I had prepared. Around 8 months ago, I lived through one of the most intense experiences of my life, and today, I've decided to share it. I'm Alex, 27 years old. I work at a company where Chloe, 25, also works, though in different departments, so our working hours almost never coincided. She's a memorable blue-eyed brunette with an impeccable figure, raised in a typical suburban environment with simple values. I, on the other hand, have been enjoying my independence for years, my own apartment with no roommates and accounts kept up to date. But if there was one thing that defined my pride, it was my '69 Chevy Chevelle, a gem inherited from my uncle, to which I dedicated years of sleepless nights and engine grease to bring back to life. Since my uncle passed away 5 years ago, every weekend I threw myself into the garage with YouTube tutorials and mechanics forums. The first major victory came when, after 6 months of adjustments, I managed to get the engine started. The second was when I could drive it for the first time. Painting it midnight blue with white stripes and fitting chrome wheels took as much effort as any university degree. I counted every dollar and every free second to make it roar like in its best days. While I was occupied with the Chevelle, my friends Liam and Ryan were pursuing their own passions. Liam, my friend since high school, studies computer science and can rebuild a PC from scratch. He once put mine back together after a failed overclocking attempt. Ryan, whom I met in college, works in finance, but every weekend he hosts video game marathons, 3 monitors, RGB lights, and a gamer chair that looks like a perpetual hug. We spent our Saturdays swapping parts and discussing carburetors in front of my car, and our Sundays with sodas and snacks, diving into games until the Monday sun forced us to stop. At first, Chloe fit in wonderfully. On her first trip to the garage, she laughed at Ryan's jokes and showed genuine interest when Liam explained his latest hardware project. She attended our gaming sessions, leaning back on the sofa to watch us play, and celebrated each of our small victories with real enthusiasm. I thought she was the perfect partner until the little nicks began. After the 8th month, her comments became recurrent and dismissive. "Don't you think that car is too old now? How many more hours are you going to dedicate to that game tonight?" They were subtle insinuations, almost imperceptible at first, but constant like a drip. One afternoon, I was under the Chevelle fine-tuning the exhaust when she showed up unannounced in my garage. I sighed and emerged from under the car to remind her that we were supposedly going to a new sushi bar that night. "We didn't have a plan," she replied indifferently, despite the fact that I had shown her the messages confirming it. In the end, I took the blame for not reminding her more insistently. Another time, at a car meet, an enthusiast quickly approached me to ask about the engine specifications and the restoration process. Chloe, who was standing next to me, leaning on the fender, was completely bored. But as soon as she found out the interlocutor worked at a tech startup, she enthusiastically pulled out her business card right in front of me and then feigned surprise at seeing me jealous afterwards. This game of emotional manipulation escalated when we planned to watch a movie at my place. She would always arrive 2 hours late, claiming traffic or an extra shift at work, although her Instagram showed photos of a happy hour with her colleagues. I confronted her, and she accused me of being controlling for checking her social media. The most painful moment happened on my friend Mike's birthday at an arcade bar downtown. Chloe canceled at the last minute due to a family emergency, and Liam, finding out, sent me a photo of Chloe at a rooftop bar with her friends. The next day, when I confronted her, she launched into a speech about her right to have fun and made me feel guilty. Ryan, during a game of Warzone, warned me, "Bro, she's playing mind games with you." But infatuation blinds us more than we care to admit. Then came the most surreal Friday. Chloe told me she was having dinner with old college friends, and I planned to meet my friend Jack later at a bar called The Local. Jack canceled because his son was sick, so I went alone. When I walked in, I saw her practically glued to a guy in an expensive suit, her body upright against him, sharing conspiratorial laughter, and the stranger's hand on her thigh. My mind went blank. For an instant, I saw but didn't believe my eyes. I walked closer without shouting, just with bewilderment. "Chloe." She froze for a moment, then composed herself. "Can I help you with something?" The man, who had the air of an owner of the world, said. "A luxury watch, an impeccable jacket, a Tesla key fob." The stranger corrected her politely. "Sir, could you please step away?" And he motioned to a waitress to call security. I felt my pulse pounding as a security guard approached, walkie-talkie in hand, and I thought that one wrong step could cost me much more than judgmental stares. A burly man against my 130 pounds in a tight black t-shirt, foretelling a violent outcome. There, amidst the murmur of the patrons and the impending clash with security, I understood that this relationship had ceased to be a life partner and had become an emotional minefield. And in that instant, I knew everything was about to change. The waitress already had her mic in hand, ready to call for backup. Two guys at the bar stood up, convinced they would be the heroes of the night. The guy with the Tesla stayed seated with a smug half-smile, enjoying the spectacle of seeing the other guy overwhelmed by events. For a moment I felt I was losing control, but something in my head clicked. Instead of creating a scene, a strange calm came over me, as if everything slowed down and I could observe the scene from the outside. Then I decided to change the script. "Oh," I said, feigning surprise. "I didn't know you had a boyfriend." The Tesla guy frowned in confusion. He looked at me, then at Chloe, trying to understand what we were talking about. "Do you two know each other?" he inquired. The security guard stopped dead in his tracks, attentive to every move. The waitress, still holding the mic, remained expectant, ready to call the police if necessary. Chloe intervened awkwardly. "He's just a colleague from the marketing department." I nodded in a conciliatory tone. "Yes, we work together, but on different teams." I turned to the Tesla guy with an expression of feigned remorse. "I'm sorry, man, truly. If I had known you were committed, I never would have spent that night with her." Chloe's reaction was priceless, her mouth open and her eyes wide, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. The guard crossed his arms, intrigued, while the other man's face hardened. "What are you saying?" he gasped. I pulled out my phone, opened the gallery, and unhurriedly showed a photo from the previous weekend, Chloe and me in bed, her resting on my chest, both of us laughing. I'm something of a maniac about organizing my images, so I quickly located the one from last Saturday. "Again, my apologies," I repeated. "I didn't know you had a partner." The Tesla guy inspected the photo. Then he looked at Chloe, whose face had gone pale. "He's lying," she stammered. "That's an old photo." I turned the phone so both could clearly see the date in the corner. 6 days ago. The waitress edged closer to get a better look at the screen, and the guard cracked a smile. "You told me you were at your sister's house this weekend," the guy accused. "I can also show you our messages from that night," I offered courteously. "Here's the entire thread. You sent me your location and even that lingerie selection just before coming over." I'm no expert on the subject, but simply mentioning it was enough to turn his expression from confusion to disgust in a heartbeat. The Tesla guy stood up abruptly. "Don't bother me anymore," he said, leaving money on the bar. "We're done." "Wait, I can explain," Chloe began, but he was already walking away. I put my phone away and remained silent for a few seconds. At nearby tables, people were watching the scene. Even the waitress had stood down on calling for backup over her radio. "Enjoy your night," I whispered to Chloe as I walked out. As I passed the guard, he gave me a discreet pat on the shoulder. "Nice move, bro." Out on the street, I typed into the group chat for Liam and Ryan, "You won't believe what just happened." Then I went straight to Liam's house where they were playing poker. That same night, I blocked Chloe's number everywhere and deleted her from my contacts. I didn't care what she tried after that. She had already given me enough of a lesson. When I arrived, Ryan showed up with 3 energy drinks in his hand and demanded details. I told them everything while their jaws dropped. "Dude, what did you do?" Liam asked, impressed. Most guys would have lost their minds. Ryan couldn't stop laughing. That photo's date is like catching the culprit with the smoking gun in their hand. In the middle of our game, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Calls from Chloe from different numbers and tons of messages from her friends painting me as the villain of the movie. Liam picked up my phone and read aloud in a high-pitched voice, "You are going to regret humiliating me like this." Ryan burst into laughter. "The only thing you'll regret is not having recorded her face." The messages kept coming all night. Her roommate accusing me of emotional abuse. A guy I didn't know threatening my safety. Liam and Ryan were cracking up, reading each new text in even more ridiculous voices. "I bet she'll say they were on a break," Ryan joked, tossing chips into the center. "Or that they were just friends and you overreacted," Liam added. They were wrong. The version that circulated was that she had been harassing me for months, that we were never a couple, and that I had photoshopped the pictures. A total delusion. On Monday, I arrived at work early and requested a desk change. I told my boss I needed to be near the design team for a key campaign. They asked no questions. I spent the morning setting up my new space, monitors, tower, chargers. By lunchtime, everything looked as if I had always been there. For 2 weeks, silence was my best weapon. Chloe tried to approach me in every way. She appeared near the coffee machine. She tried to corner me by the elevator. I was impenetrable. "I'm busy. I have a meeting. I can't." The more I ignored her, the more desperate she became. Her friend Kayla from HR started commenting in a low voice, "You should have left her unanswered sooner. Those video game obsessions are a red flag." Chloe even went as far as programming fake meetings and waiting for me in conference rooms. Once, I found her sitting, ready to talk. "We need to talk about what happened," she said, and I simply turned around and left. The worst was seeing her wait for me one afternoon in the parking lot, emerging from a pillar like a villain in a horror movie. "You have to hear my side," she insisted, blocking my car door. I got into the car and closed the doors firmly. One day, I found a 4-page handwritten letter on my desk, explaining her version of events. I didn't even bother to read it. I took a photo, sent it to the group with a LOL, and shredded it. Ryan, who worked in a nearby building, told me he saw her trying to interrupt me in the lobby. "She looks about to strip naked from all the drama," he joked. In the end, she sent a long email asserting that I didn't take it seriously, and that what we had was real. For my part, I deleted the message without replying. It wasn't an apology, just a panic attack. Liam read it one weekend with plenty of energy drinks and couldn't help but utter a classic, "She doesn't regret what she did, only that she got caught." One Friday night, my friends and I were focused on that new Battle Royale game when my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. When I opened it, I saw a photo of Chloe with smudged makeup, black tears running down her cheeks, and the caption, "Look what you made me do." Before I could react, Ryan grabbed my cell phone and replied, "New number, who dis?" and hit send. We spent days laughing about that foolishness, and I decided I was done with Chloe. No more drama. I would keep the relationship professional. I sent her a half-hearted apology email but got no response, so I considered the story closed. However, the matter hadn't ended. The next day, I was in my garage working on my '69 Chevelle. The car was half-assembled on jack stands, ready to install the new sound system and organize some of the wiring. I had the lights on, music playing, and that almost meditative silence that I love so much when I'm under the hood. Liam was supposed to bring me some parts and said he'd come with snacks. I was under the car, cursing under my breath because whoever designed that model in 1969 didn't foresee cables for Bluetooth half a century later. I finally managed to fit the head unit and started connecting the rest, but my phone vibrated again. Liam warned me he would be late, but he was bringing the adapter just in time. Shortly after, I heard a car door slam and knocking on the front door. It was Chloe, shouting from the street, insulting me and accusing me of making her look like an idiot. Her voice was so loud that the lights in the neighbors' houses began to turn on. Mrs. Johnson next door came out onto the porch in her robe and stared at us, dumbfounded. I didn't open the door or say anything. I turned up the music, hoping she would leave. But after an instant, I heard a dry crash that made my skin crawl. I went out through the side door and froze. Chloe had entered my garage, spilled her coffee over the hood, and worst of all, had keyed the bodywork with her house key. There, on the side of the Chevelle, was a deep, wavy scratch running from the front fender to the rear panel. I stood in silence, my fists clenched, staring at the damage. It wasn't a simple scratch, it was a calculated act of vandalism. That car wasn't just a vehicle. It was a project of years, my pride, and my inheritance. Just then, Liam and Ryan arrived. Seeing my face and the mark on the metal, they knew things had gone too far. "What the hell happened?" Liam asked, tracing the scratch with his finger as if it were a wound. I could only manage to say, "Chloe." Ryan reminded me that I could have recorded everything with my security camera, installed after a neighbor's house was broken into last year. "Hurry to the garage. I need you to see this." When I played the recording on my mobile, everything was clear. Her banging on the door, throwing the coffee, and then taking out the key, looking directly at the camera, and deliberately dragging it across the paint. 1080p with night vision. I couldn't have asked for more damning evidence. That same night, I called the police and filed a report. The duty officer didn't need any convincing. He watched the video, nodded, and noted proven vandalism. He took photos from several angles and asked me to follow up with the prosecutor's office in a few days. Before leaving, he whistled as he looked at the 69 and commented on how hard it was to find such well-preserved specimens. The next day, Ryan got me the contact information for a lawyer friend of a friend. I spoke with him Monday morning. He reviewed the evidence and told me I had a very solid criminal case plus a civil suit for damages. He warned me, save a copy of that video and make multiple backups. The next step was human resources. I drafted a formal complaint addressed to my department head with a copy to the HR representative, attaching the recording, the police report, photos, and screenshots of the messages she sent me, which I had blocked after the incident. On Monday, Chloe showed up at the office, but her access card no longer worked and her desk was empty. Word is that she tried to justify herself, but the HR manager projected the video in the conference room, and she, who arrived defiant, left defeated in less than a minute. A few weeks ago, I found out that Chloe was obsessed with me. It all started when I took a box of plants and some photos I had found at her desk to her car. Her face lit up, but I kept my composure. Still, she didn't stop trying to communicate. Emails, text messages. She even appeared one day in my office feigning an accident to get close. When she wrote me from a new number with a concise, "I'm sorry about your car, but you humiliated me in front of everyone," I simply forwarded the message to my lawyer without answering. 2 weeks after filing the police report, I received a call from the assigned detective. Chloe had been charged with damage and vandalism. She was arrested, processed, and released on bail. The date for the criminal trial was set for the following month, while my lawyer had already filed the civil suit for the damages. We prepared a detailed estimate, custom paint, professional detailing, plus compensation for not being able to use the car while it was in the shop. We even included before and after photos. When we got to the small claims hearing, the judge examined my receipts, the repair shop invoices, and the security camera footage. Chloe tried to defend herself by arguing she had acted out of emotional distress due to my harassment, but the magistrate replied, "You lashed out against private property to avenge a supposed embarrassment. That's like someone honking at you in traffic and you responding by slashing their tires at their home." Without further delay, he passed sentence. Chloe had to pay every cent of the $3,200 in repairs plus court costs. Since she couldn't pay it all at once, he established a payment plan of $500 a month until the debt was settled, with added interest. I left the courthouse feeling calm while Liam and Ryan celebrated my victory. Poetic justice hits differently, Ryan joked that same afternoon in the parking lot. She approached me furiously. "It's not fair. You're ruining my life over one stupid scratch." "Welcome to the consequences of touching my car," I replied. "See ya." Later at home, I saw an email from her titled, "I hope you're happy." Inside was just a screenshot of her bank account confirming the first $500 payment. I didn't reply, but I smiled. Yes, I was very satisfied. Months later, my life took an unexpected turn. That marketing campaign I was working on when all this erupted was a resounding success. I was offered a promotion, a higher salary, my own office outside the open plan space where anyone could interrupt, and remote workdays. I finally stopped eating alone at my desk. With the extra money in my paycheck, I ordered all the parts for the Chevelle that I had been looking at online for months. A new sound system, renewed leather upholstery, full detailing, and the paint corrected. Then I protected the bodywork with a ceramic coating. Water droplets slide off instantly, and minor scratches disappear as if by magic. The dark blue color now has a hypnotic depth. Liam and I spent a weekend upgrading the engine. We replaced the carburetor with a more efficient one, optimized the intake manifold, and added a power chip that increased performance by 15%. When we finished, we drove out to the solitary road next to the industrial park. We floored the accelerator and reached 112 mph, 180 km/h. Ryan recorded everything from the passenger seat. His scream of, "Dude!" echoed over the engine's roar. I uploaded the video to social media, and other enthusiasts immediately asked me for details on the setup. One weekend, I took the Chevelle to a classic car meet in a nearby town. I parked next to a line of Camaros and Mustangs. At the end of the day, I was presented with the Best in Category trophy. The organizer, a veteran restorer with 4 decades of experience, spent 20 minutes inspecting the engine bay and ended up nodding with admiration before giving me the award. I've also updated my gaming rig, a new GPU, high-end headphones, and a bigger monitor. Every afternoon after work, Liam, Ryan, and I meet online. Laughs, teasing, and intense games without any drama. Last week, we got an advantage all the way to the final circle, but Ryan went all in with a grenade and we lost. The neighbors surely thought something serious was happening because of the shouting. A few weeks ago, I had an unexpected encounter with Marcus, that guy from the cafe. He saw me, approached without hesitation, and thanked me. It turned out he had been seeing Chloe for more than a month, believing she had broken up with me and was single and innocent. As soon as I showed him that photo, she vanished from his life. He remembered her lying. We exchanged numbers. He is also passionate about classic cars. His dad has a '67 Mustang that they restored together. We plan to meet up at the next car show. In fact, a couple of weekends ago, I attended a car meet at the industrial park. There were 200K supercars and exotics everywhere, but people were mesmerized by my Chevelle. Classics have a soul you can't buy. There, I met members of a club who meet every 2 weeks in a garage on the outskirts. The first time I took the Chevelle, they welcomed me as if I'd arrived with a supermodel. I spent 3 hours discussing compression ratios and valve timing, my favorite territory. Last Saturday, Ryan organized the monthly poker game at Liam's house. His girlfriend brought Sarah, an excellent Texas Hold'em player who took $40 from me mercilessly and had no complaints about the chips and dip for dinner. We exchanged numbers, and we might go out to dinner next week. On our last game night, someone mentioned Chloe. I haven't even thought about her in weeks. As long as she keeps making her payments, I'll enjoy my life. No girlfriend, no scandals, just peace and triumphs. If there's one lesson to take from all this, it is, document every step. Install security cameras, and don't let anyone make you doubt your own reality. And while you're at it, never date someone who despises a classic Chevy. Edit 1. I did not press criminal charges. The civil suit and her firing were enough. Edit 2. For the skeptics, this is real. Believe what you want. Edit 3. The original text ends here, implying a final thought that wasn't included.